My name's Yasmin Johnson. I'm the Youth Workforce Development Coordinator here at FTNYS, and today's webinar is titled Cross-Networking and Resource Gathering for Youth Peer Advocates, hosted by FTNYS and CTAC and presented by Zaquana Stevens, who's also a Youth Workforce Development Coordinator at FTNYS. We're very excited to have Zaquana speak to us about cross-networking and resource gathering for YPAs. Thank you again for joining us, and I'll pass it on to Zaquana now to introduce themselves and get us started.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today for this training and this webinar. Like Yasmin said, my name is Zaquana. I use she and they pronouns. I am the Youth Workforce Development Coordinator as well as a credentialed YPA. So I am here in your shoes and ready to talk about this important topic because now more than ever, we need to be collaborating, right? We need community and we need to build. So I want to start us off with an icebreaker question. Share one challenge that you faced when trying to connect to or gather resources or even collaborating. A challenge that you face trying to gather resources or collaborate? We don't have to have everyone share. We could just do a couple. And also feel free to use the chat as well.
Can you repeat the question? It kind of cut off, but please.
Sure. Share one challenge that you face trying to connect with resources or collaborate?
I think the biggest challenge for me is for my undocumented students.
Yes, thank you. Hi. Okay. Time constraints that was said in the chat. Yeah, there's a few challenges that can come up with cross collaborating, right? So let's get into the topic. So today we will be talking about the importance of resource sharing, building connections and navigating resource barriers. And we're going to dive into the importance of resource sharing. Why is this topic important, right? Why does it matter? Well, in the YPA Code of Ethics, which will be put into the chat for you all to review, you have all signed this. If you are a credentialed YPA or if you plan to get your credential, this is in the Code of Ethics, is something that will come up. There is a commitment to partnership, right? In this Code of Ethics, they talk about navigating complex systems such as education, youth welfare, mental health, juvenile justice, and so much more. It's part of our role as youth peer advocates to collaborate, and it's part of the whole idea of peer advocacy and having peers in the workforce. So just to dive a little bit deeper, why is this topic important, right? Equity and access, the ethics of fairness. Youth in systems and services, they come from marginalized background, right? Resource sharing helps ensure equitable access to essential services, information, opportunities, which is critical for leveling the playing field. We want to support by sharing resources and agencies that can address the multifaceted needs of youth. One blanket answer cannot suffice for all. We're all individuals and we all have different needs and areas of needs, areas where we need support. And this could be mental health support, education, housing, much more. The approach is more effective. This approach of creating equity in the resource sharing is more effective than fragmented services. Collaboration and holistic care. A focus on providing integrated services. When agencies collaborate and share resources, they can provide a more cohesive care. For example, a mental health facility that collaborates with a youth shelter can offer tailored support that addresses both emotional well-being and immediate housing needs. And this creates continuity. Youth transitioning between systems benefit from shared resources because it ensures that their care is uninterrupted and consistent. Empowerment and agency, right? Involving youth in resource sharing decisions empowers them and gives them agency over their lives. This can encourage resilience and self-advocacy. And resource sharing encourages peer-to-peer support networks, allowing youth to learn from each other's experiences and strategies, and can reduce feelings of isolation and increase confidence. Building community creates resource sharing creates a sense of community amongst all youth, right? It fosters relationships, not just with service providers, but also with peers, which is essential for social development. Youth can share their stories and resources, which can be therapeutic and create a sense of belonging. And this community can help in healing and personal growth. The efficiency and sustainability, not only is it cost effective, but the sharing of resources can reduce redundancy and lead to more effective use of funding and services. This is particularly important in systems that are often underfunded or overburdened. So a collaborative resource sharing can promote agencies to pool their resources and to create programs that benefit a larger group of youth. Advocacy and system change. So when youth and agencies do that, right, they can create a stronger advocacy platform for systematic change. We see this all the time. This unified approach can draw attention to gaps in services and lead to policy reforms. Sharing data and outcomes can help identify trends in areas that need improvement, ultimately benefiting the systems, the youth they serve, and us as staff, right? And leaders in change. So the conclusion is that there's ethics to resource sharing. Youth in system services, we need to emphasize fairness, collaboration, empowerment, community building. These practices not only enhance individual outcomes, but also contribute to a more effective and sustainable support system. And by prioritizing resource sharing, we can create environments that promote healing, growth, and positive change for young people. So how do we actually build the connection? Now we know it's important. So what do we do, right? I have one question for you all. Have you ever seen the benefits of cross collaboration in your time as a YPA? Have you ever seen the benefits of cross collaboration? Feel free to come off of mute or use the chat.
Could you please put the question in the chat?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Do you mean like collaborating with other organizations?
Right, and it could mean in
Okay.
any sense.
I just think like through my experience of working as a youth peer advocate, I just think one of the benefits of collaborating with other agencies is being able, if you don't have the services that the youth need, right? We could connect with the agencies that we were able to collaborate, at some point. So having that connection with other agencies, that's one of the benefits of you know collaborating, right? Another one could be possibly if you need a job opportunity, and that agency has an opening that might benefit you, best fit for you. you could connect with them and have a higher chance of like being getting the job. So things like that. Or another way is like if you want to do a youth group, you know, with agency, you guys could collaborate with each other. Um, yeah.
Yes, those were amazing examples, and I completely agree, Alfonso. Thank you for sharing that. Megan?
So I wanted to share an example from like being a peer to a young adult, so they've just transitioned into adult services, being 19 and stuff. This individual providing support to them for childhood sexual abuse, but they also had an addiction. And, I'm can't provide peer support for that specifically, not having the guidance or the education or the certification. So connecting them with another agency who specializes in addiction services was exceedingly beneficial because now like we connect through peer advocacy and support that way, but also they're receiving specific addiction services in a support group from there. So like they're receiving support and help for something that I personally couldn't give them support in. And now, like, the thing is like what they work on in their addiction group, like a skill they learn, a coping skill, new information to understand it, they bring that back to me, and then we're able to talk about further applying what they learned from elsewhere, So I find it beneficial in being able to utilize what they've gained from another service to benefit and progress in what we are working on. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. I think that what you're saying is people are multifaceted. We need different things, and sometimes those needs cross over. Sometimes it could be beneficial to gain support in different areas. And like Alfonso said, we can build community this way. We can help more than just the youth who's asking for it, but we can make ourselves stronger as peers, and we can bridge the gap and create more continuity. So thank you all for sharing. So the power of introductions. Let's talk about one-on-one interactions with potential collaborators. First impressions could be the start of something big. You want to introduce yourself with confidence. You want to explain your role and why it matters, and highlight the impact you can have in connecting you to resources. You should have a clear understanding of your role and a short or longer description of what you do. How is your role important? And yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. When you're talking to agencies or individuals, there's some things you should be thinking about, how to outline your goals and what your asks are. There's different things that you might need as a YPA when you're servicing youth. You may have a gap where you know that you need a little bit more help in that sector, or your agency could use help, or where this agency has a strong suit in that sector. So here's some questions to think about. What are your objectives? What are the needs of the youth that you serve? What's your mission? Align your ask and your objectives with those things. So think about that ahead of time to try to get those things in your head. So when you're ready to have those conversations one-on-one with agencies or individuals, you kind of have an understanding about what you're looking for, what to say. As a YPA, you're meant to put yourself out there, right? On behalf of the youth you serve. So this may not seem like it's a leadership position, but the impact that you can make is a big difference between someone getting the help that they need or not. So if you have a goal or an ask that you're trying to achieve, get clear on the ways that others can help and give them a starting point. So let's talk about position-based thinking versus interest-based thinking. This is something that is also touched on in your YPA training. The goal is to lead with the interests of youth and agencies you collaborate with, not just your position as a YPA, especially in cases where you may need to do some convincing. Frame what you're asked in ways that benefits both sides. Look for common goals or visions. Position-based thinking focuses on a specific role or stance that someone holds, often leading to a rigid negotiation or communication. In this approach, individuals emphasize their position, their want, or their need without considering other perspectives. An example of position-based thinking would be, I need this resource because I'm a YPA, without really explaining further. Interest-based thinking focuses on the underlying motivation, needs, and goals of all parties involved. Instead of focusing solely on your position, you approach the conversation by identifying shared interests and finding solutions that benefit everyone. For example, you might frame the ask like, I'm working with youth who need housing support. By collaborating, we could connect them to your services, which would benefit both our communities. So that would be an example of interest-based thinking. And in interest-based thinking, the focus is finding a common ground and aligning both interests, right? So leveraging your supervisor. Sometimes you may encounter situations where you're not able to get in touch with someone or you're having troubles trying to get in contact. Don't be afraid of looping in your supervisor. Of course, talk to them first, but don't be afraid of making it a team effort to be able to get that resource and get that connection. So encourage collaboration with supervisors when necessary to gain faster responses from potential partners or agencies. So here we have an activity where we have an elevator pitch. Imagine you're at a work conference and you just found yourself in the elevator with someone who you think has great resources for youth. How would you pitch them? Craft and present, or which it doesn't have to be, nerve-wracking, but a 30-second elevator pitch that explains their role and how you collaborate with other agencies. So let's take a few minutes. I'll probably give you all about 2 or 3 minutes to think about how you would present an elevator pitch to someone who you've just met in a conference. You don't know much about them, but you do know that they have resources that may be beneficial for your youth. How would you say, hey, this is me, this is what I do, and I want to collaborate? So I'll give you guys till 12:24, since it's 12:21 right now, and I'll check back in.
Is it like a person that you know that exists, but you are like trying to collaborate with them?
Right.
Okay.
Are we typing it into the chat or are we gonna say it out loud?
Whatever you feel most comfortable with. If you want to use the chat, if you want to say it out loud. I love to hear your voices if you're willing. Gladys, I said your name correctly, right?
Yes, I'm just ready whenever you are.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Oh,
I love
okay.
when people take initiative.
Okay, so what I put was, hello, my name is Gladys. I provide support services for high school youth, many of whom are newly arrived immigrants and undocumented. What are some of the services you presently have available for this population, please?
That was great. You see, you told us who you are, what you do, right? Now, I have no idea who you were 2 seconds ago, but I think I have a good understanding of what it is you do and how I can connect your population and your needs with the things that I'm an expert in. And that's how you could foster collaboration. So that was amazing. Thank you so much, Gladys. I'm gonna
Thank
also
you.
look, I want to also look in the chat, and we have David who says, I work as an in-home mental health specialist at Lodestar Child Services, where I support children and families directly in their homes. My goal is to create a safe, nurturing environment by providing tailored mental health strategies, improving communication, and empowering families to overcome challenges together. I specialize in building trust, fostering emotional growth, and equipping families with the tools that they need to thrive in their unique circumstances. That was beautiful. That showcased so much of who you are, your personality, what you're trying to do. And it has all the important information too. What is it that you do? Where do you work? What do they do? And your goal, your ask, all of it's clear, and it also has a very positive tone. So that's amazing. Megan, you have your hand raised.
So I would introduce myself, Megan. I am the statewide youth engagement specialist for Youth Power at Families Together in New York State. I do a variety of different things with youth and youth service providers, such as trainings, workshops, forums. I also like to get youth involved in different public and policy advocacy. I'm located in Western New York. That's where I do a lot of my work, but I'm also statewide. And um, I would love to collaborate on any way to benefit the youth across the state or in your community.
Yes, that is great. Okay. All of these answers are amazing because they're really having a positive impact, a focus on collaboration. It makes me want to say, well, what can I do? Right? What can I do? What services can I offer? How can we make this work? This is important because we're building community and we're creating wraparound supports, not just in our own agencies, but we're reaching out to others. So this is amazing. We have some great answers in the chat as well, but I'm going to move forward so that we keep with time, okay? But thank you all so much for your input and giving other people this template to think about how they kind of would approach this situation, right? Oh, well, we did that, didn't we? Okay, how to build a network. So now we talked about how would we talk to someone individually, right? What are kind of the challenges that may come up with that? But now let's talk about how to really cultivate a network. So so you want to identify and build agency connections, right? When you encounter barriers to resources because youth are not affiliated with a particular agency, building a network of point people within those agencies can help navigate those challenges. So this is something that could come up very often when you're trying to get that collaboration. Maybe some agencies or individuals aren't as used to collaborating with outside agencies. You may come up with a barrier to where because the youth that you're referring isn't directly affiliated, well, a way to kind of navigate that would be to get a point person, right? it's a simple ask. It could sound like, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm a youth peer advocate. I often work with young people who face these challenges, accessing resources, and especially when they're not affiliated with an agency like yours. How can you help me connect to a point person in your organization who can reach out when navigating these situations? You know, when you're asking an agency who can be a point person for you to bridge challenges, gaps, anything like that, you're building a network. That's what you're doing. You're getting somebody who you can go to, who knows your face, you know theirs, and you guys get to know each other, learn each other, and you get to learn more about the agency more on a one-on-one setting. So that can help kind of break the ice, right? So something else is, remember, we're talking about building a network, right? You want to have ongoing communication with these agencies. Building a network is something that needs to be maintained. So you want to make a habit to check in with your contacts, your various agencies regularly, right? You want to ask, are the resources still available? Are there new resources that could be valuable? Has the application process changed? Are the requirements the same? You know, when you have gotten that person already in your network, you want to make sure that you're keeping up to date so you're giving your youth the most relevant information as well. So we have an actual breakout activity. This one is a little bit involved, but we're going to do it together at first. And then we're going to break out into groups and try to tackle some of these ourselves. So here we have a professional email where you'll be practicing drafting an email to an agency or service provider in a response to a specific scenario where you need support. And in each scenario, it presents a situation where you must advocate for the youth. And by reaching out to an external organization to secure resources and or navigate challenges. So we have 3 scenarios. The first 2 will go over together. So this is the first scenario. A youth that you're advocating for was turned away from a transitional housing program, right? So right now we're in the homelessness aspect of services. So even though they've met the eligibility criteria, the youth is 19 years old and they've been homeless for a year and was referred to the program for a longer term housing support. The reason for the rejection was unclear, and you want to follow up with the housing provider to understand why the youth wasn't accepted and discuss possible considerations. So in here, I will have a PDF be sent into the chat for you all to review this so that you don't have to just look on the screen. There's a few tips in here about key details to include. So I'll give you all a chance to open that and let me know if there's any issues opening that PDF. We're looking at scenario 1. And just give me a thumbs up if everyone can open up that PDF. Okay, great. Thank you all. Thank you. Okay, so how would we approach the situation? Well, there is an example in your PDF, and the example email, the subject line says follow up on transitional housing application. It says, my name is so-and-so. I'm a youth peer advocate with said agency, and I'm reaching out in regarding to the youth's name. A 19-year-old individual experiencing homelessness who recently applied to your transitional housing program. They have been without stable housing for over a year and was referred to your program on this date. However, I was informed that their application was not accepted despite their meeting and eligibility, despite them meeting the eligibility requirement as outlined in your program's website. I want to follow up to better understand the decision and explore any steps that could be taken to have the application be reconsidered. The youth's name is highly motivated in obtaining stability and independence and securing transitional housing as a crucial step towards that goal. If reconsideration is not possible at this time, I would greatly appreciate any guidance on alternative resources or programs that could support their situation. Thank you for taking the time to review this request and the important work that you do to support individuals experiencing homelessness. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly at, and then you put your information. So what do we think about this email? What are some of the things that stand out?
Well, it's Alfonso Vasquez. So I think one of the things that really stand out is that you were you was directly talked bringing up the concern of what's going on specifically with the youth. Um, when it came to the youth being eligible for getting the housing, but he was rejected, right? So bringing up that conversation of the concern of why you're contacting them, right? And also like offering, yourself and collaborating with them and how can we help this youth to get the services that he needs. So I do think that's something that was a great email, a great email example that you provided.
Thank you, Alfonso, right? Because that is the main goal. Often we think about advocacy as very combative, but oftentimes we may not need to be combative. Sometimes it does look like this to be polite and to be collaborative when you are advocating. So thank you. Megan?
I feel like this email is so like layered, and it's layered in ways that I wouldn't have thought to layer it myself. You know, your first paragraph, like you're just introducing the person, being very specific about it, given that basic detail. The second paragraph is like starting the advocacy of like, well, you're confused. Like, here's the concern, here's the problem is you're confused, and so is this person. Why haven't they received this when they're eligible? And then the third paragraph is something that really stood out to me, is that like this really emphasizes part of the peer principles. And like this person is motivated, this person has needs that they are trying to obtain. This is crucial. And like you're really describing how this person is like credible and valuable and worthy to receive this service. And even though, of course, that is true, some it might not like it's important to point that out sometimes, for advocacy. So I just like how it's layered like that.
Yes, thank you. It is important to be very person-centered as often as you can, because that is what we're peers. We're working with our youth and we're here as a support to them, and we're here to make sure that their needs are being met. So you always want to be person-centered when you are communicating. Gladys?
I put it in the chat, but it said the letter was, I thought the letter was very polite. It was non-judgmental. You didn't question their position. You just asked for clarification and if there was something that could be done to reconsider it. Because sometimes, I know for me, if I've dealt with agencies over and over again, I might call and I'm already at the point of being exasperated and frustrated. I have to check myself and understand my approach to the agency could cause the problem for the young person I'm trying to advocate for. So I think the letter was, it was very polite, non-judgmental, asking, for help and clarification and trying to, kind of reconsider the position that was taken.
Right. And that's an important part that you brought up, that sometimes you may feel overwhelmed and exacerbated. But imagine how your youth feels that when they're trying to navigate this, right? We're here as a support to them, and we need to try and make sure that we're taking a step back and thinking, okay, well, how can I be the best help right now? And sometimes it may take that moment to think, well, in this moment, am I trying to be combative or am I trying to build collaboration? Sometimes it may need that positive or solution-based tone. Not to say that every time you advocate, you will have to do that, but just to think about in the situation, what is the best approach? Can you benefit from having a collaboration with this agency? Will it benefit the youth that you're working with to have a collaboration with this agency? And if not, then deal with it in the best ways that you know how. But if it is beneficial for that, maybe approach it this way. So thank you so much. Anyone have any other input to on this one, scenarios one, email, or we'll move forward. So scenario 2, that is also in the PDF, but this one we're going to talk through the email that's being written. But let's go through the scenario first. So in this scenario, you're working with a 12-year-old who has been struggling with severe anxiety and behavioral challenges at school. The youth's family has expressed concerns about their mental health, but lacks health insurance and isn't familiar with how to navigate the mental health system. You've identified a local mental health clinic that offers sliding scale or free services for children, but when you initially referred the family, they were told the wait list was several months long, and you want to reach out to the clinic to see if there are any immediate openings or alternative options for the youth to access support sooner. So in this scenario, in your PDF, you see example email. But just to go through each line a little bit better, when in the subject line, you'll notice that it says request support options for 12-year-old on waitlist. This is a short and concise subject line, and it immediately tells the reader that what the email is about, why it's important, and it helps them prioritize their email to ensure that it doesn't get overlooked in a busy inbox. The next line says, my name is so-and-so, and I'm a youth peer advocate with so-and-so. So you always want to introduce yourself and your role clearly. This establishes your position as a professional advocate working on behalf of the youth. And it also helps the reader understand why you're reaching out and adds credibility to your request. The next line says, I'm currently working with a 12-year-old youth and their family who are seeking mental health support. The youth is experiencing severe anxiety, which has a significant impact on their behavior both at school and at home. So providing a brief but specific overview of the youth situation helps the reader understand the urgency and context of your request. Be factual, focus on the key issues, and avoid the overly emotional language. Because this is a minor, I've opted to keep the use name private for the initial email. And those are kind of the things that you want to think about when you are reaching out. The next line says, I understand the current wait list for appointment is several months long. So acknowledging the wait list demonstrates that you understand their processes and are respectful of the limitations. And it also sends a collaborative tone instead of an accusatory one. It's important to make sure that, well, you don't want to make sure that their needs are over the youth, but at least acknowledging what is happening. shows them that you've kind of already gone through the appropriate channels, or you're at least aware of what is happening. The next line is, I wanted to follow up to explore whether there are any immediate openings or alternative options available while waiting for a regular appointment. This is a clear and respectful ask that reassures or ensures that the reader knows exactly what you're looking for, right? You want to be polite while advocating, and because it shows professionalism and it maintains a positive relationship with the agency. Politeness doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice directness. This is an example to showcase both, right? Could you recommend virtual options, crisis support resources, community group programs that could help address their child's needs? So by offering specific alternatives, you make it easy for the reader to understand and provide solutions. Instead of a vague request, you're guiding them towards practical ways to assist. This shows that you've thought about the possible solutions, saving them time, and you'll notice that this example is bulleted, right? So when making multiple requests, it's good to emphasize them in some type of way to make it more digestible when the reader is going through the email. Please let me know if there's any additional information I could provide to assist in identifying the right options. So this shows that you're willing to support their efforts, that you aren't just handing off the issue. Collaboration is key in professional advocacy, and this statement keeps the door open for future communication. And then lastly, thank you for your time and your essential services your clinic provides to the community. I look forward to your response and appreciate your guidance on this matter. Ending with a note of appreciation helps reinforce a positive tone and leaves a good impression. Gratitude is an important part of professional communication, and it makes people more likely to help. A professional closing ensures that the reader knows how to reach you if they have follow-up questions, and providing your full name, your role, your contact information makes it easier for them to respond quickly. So by structuring your emails this way, you're ensuring that your message is clear, respectful, and solution-focused. This approach builds trust and increases the chances of getting a positive response, which is essential for advocating for youth in need. Great. So now you guys are going to try it on your own. We have our scenario here, which is at the bottom of your PDF. Scenario 3, which is connecting a youth to job training programs. So the scenario states, you're working with a youth who recently dropped out of high school and is struggling to find employment due to a lack of skills and experience. The youth is interested in job training programs that can help them build career skills. You found a workplace development agency that offers vocational training, but the youth was turned away because they didn't meet the age requirements for the main program. If you want to reach out to the agency to see if there's any alternative programs or age flexible options. And some key details to include is the youth's interest in job training and the barriers that they're facing, your role and your being a YPA, and the importance of finding a pathway for the youth, and request any alternative program resources that may be available to accommodate the youth. There's also some tips there as well. And I'm going to give you all 6 minutes to do a breakout room. We're going to do max groups of 6, and we're going to open that up now. For all of you wondering how to get your scenario, remember it's in the PDF. Please open your scenario up in your PDF so that before you go into your breakout room, so that you have it open. Welcome back. Awesome. So hopefully that was enough time Let's do some debriefing. Why don't we have our first breakout room? Let us know what you guys came up with. Don't be shy.
I'm not sure if I was the first one, but I can put what we had.
We were the third situation.
Oh, third. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. But I mean, if they want to go out of order, that's fine.
Well, I see something in the chat. Is that the group that you were a part of?
Yeah, that was group 3.
Okay.
Alicia was wonderful about putting the letter together with our input.
Oh, perfect. All right, so I can read it out loud. It says, "Dear agency, my name is Maria Shirley Emily. I am working with a young person who is seeking employment and skills training. He was recently referred and rejected to your job training department due to his age, as he is younger than your criteria. Do you have any options that may meet his younger age status while supporting his endeavors for employment and training? Are there any internships or referrals that you can offer from your work in this area? I'm happy to discuss options on a call or in person. I can follow up with you anytime next week. Thank you for your time, and I hope you can help this very eager youth." Wow, that was superb. Great job, you all, because this hits all of the nails on the head, right? You talked about who you are, what you need. You talked about what you're asking for, right? What are the things that you're looking for, the alternatives. And you're very polite and nice and positive. And this makes, if I was reading this, I definitely would respond, yes, here's all the resources, because that was an amazingly worded email. Thank you all for your time working on this. That is great. I'm so happy, eager to hear from the rest of the groups as well. That was an amazing first start.
So we didn't fully finish um our draft. We got our introduction, and we identify who we are and what we provide, and then also reaching up to follow out up. But one of the things we did is, like, we tried to really emphasize how this youth is passionate and wanting to join the workforce and pursue professional goals and advance in themselves.
And that's great, because you're staying person centered and you're letting this person know, hey, not only is this youth having access to a YPA who's willing to support them on their behalf, but I'm letting you know they also are very eager and they're gonna be willing to join your program. We both are eager to hear back from you. So that's amazing. So we had 4 groups in total. We have 2 more share outs. Anyone want to vote? Oh, we got a letter in the chat. Julia or anyone from your group, do you guys want to speak on this?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of like just all came up with like something like pretty general to like be able to send based on the prompt.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll read it out loud. Hello, my name is Julia Meadow, and I'm a youth care advocate for Lone Star Children's Services. I work with so-and-so, the youth's name, and he is seeking a job that can help him build a career and learn important life skills. He was recently rejected from your main program because he did not fulfill the age requirement. I wanted to know if you were able to direct me to any other programs where he can benefit, where he could better fit the criteria. The youth seems very committed to finding a job and being an active member of society. I believe that an agency similar to yours would be very beneficial to him. Please do not hesitate to contact me at this email with any suggestions, questions, or concerns. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. That is great. And you know what I really like about this email is that you talked about similar agencies. And we actually going to go into that a little bit further on into this presentation, because what you're doing is you're building up your network, you're creating a list, you're getting different agencies, and you're understanding how your community is connecting, what are the requirements, all of those things. So that's great. I love this one. Thank you to your group. This was an amazing exercise. I thought that you all did really well. And I appreciate you taking the time to really test this out and really try, right? Sometimes, I don't know, when I was a YPA starting out, finding the verbiage or figuring out how to approach a situation when it came to emails caused me a lot of nervousness and made me anxious. So I thought that this would be something that would be really helpful, because it's something I would have really loved to have tried out just starting out as a YPA. So thank you all for taking that time. Okay, so right. Ongoing communication. So now you practice your emailing, and you want to make sure that you're keeping in contact, but you also want to make sure you're keeping your own notes for yourself about what are the requirements and what are the resources available, when do they run out, anything, you know? So that was amazing all. So that is wrapping up the how to create a network section. In the next section, we will be talking about seeking resources, but just for this section specifically, are there any questions? If not, that's okay as well. All right, so we are going to get into seeking resources. All right, we talked about cross networking. Now, how do we actually find resources? Resource matching and terminology. So one of the main things that could come up when you're looking for resources is not knowing exactly what the terminology is that field particularly is using. So it could be a barrier, right? So how to match youth needs with the right resources by learning specific terms. Example, knowing the term maternal care while seeking resources for a pregnant youth. So here we'll discuss why terminology is important, the steps to match the youth's needs with resources, and navigating resource scarcity in rural areas. So you want to have professional communication. When reaching out to agencies or professionals, using their language could help you build communication more effectively and make the request more clear. This builds credibility and trust. So actually knowing the terminology could really help when you're reaching out. Accessing the right services or accessing services. Different services have nuanced eligibility requirements, and knowing the precise terms can ensure you're connecting youth to the exact support that they need, whether it's related to health, education, employment, or crisis intervention. So, like we said, there's different requirements, right? There's different applications, and all of these different things may have a certain word that is associated with them when it comes to a certain age range, and other eligibility requirements. So it is something that is important to try to find, right? So when you are looking, try to explore existing databases. Many organizations have searchable online directories where you can input keywords and get results that include local services. Use terms such as youth services, mental health, or job training to narrow your search. An example is 211 or NYC Well, which is in New York, where it provides database. These are databases that provided where you can search for specific types of support. So try to find something locally to you where you can find an existing database. I've used this myself, and it has definitely been a help when I wasn't sure about the terminology for different fields. Engage with service providers. Don't be afraid to ask service providers about specific terms that they use. When you reach out to an agency, take note of how they refer to their services so you can use this language in future interactions. Ask clarifying questions if they use terms that you're not familiar with. All of this is a learning process. When you're building resources, building a network, these are the questions that you may have, and it's okay, because that's how you become a better advocate and you equip yourself in the future with more knowledge in different fields, different areas, and you're a more well-rounded advocate and can provide more wraparound services to your youth. So steps to match youth needs with resources. Identify the core need. First, clearly define what the youth is seeking help with. It could be anything from mental health support, job training, or family planning. Break down the need into categories such as healthcare, housing, or education, financial aid, or legal support. So when you're not sure about where to even start, think about it more broadly. If you're trying to help a youth and they're pregnant and you're not sure about what that terminology is, thinking about it broadly, doing some research in that way can help you narrow it down. Research specific terminology in each field. Once you've identified a broad category, research the field-specific terms by using agencies and providers. This can help you filter resources more effectively and ensure you're reaching out to the right programs. So for example, for a youth needing help with pregnancy, search for maternal care, prenatal care, or family planning services instead of just pregnancy help. If you're unsure of similar words to search, try looking for synonyms. Use government and nonprofit resources as well. Government websites and nonprofit directories are valuable for learning and understanding the right terminology. Many offer glossarias of terms or searchable databases for locating resources. Example, the Office of Family Assistance, or OFA, provides information about financial support. Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, offers terms like subsidized housing, homeless prevention, or Section 8 housing. These are things that are specific to that field, and that going to those government agencies will definitely show you how people in those fields are talking about these services. And it can also give you definitions of each of those services as well. Oh, wow. Okay. Navigating resource scarcity in rural areas. This is a very big topic, right? Because rural areas often get left out of the conversation. So you want to know where to find virtual supports and programs. Many organizations offer virtual peer service groups or for issues like mental health or addiction recovery or LGBTQ support and more. And examples include platforms like Seven Cups or Trevor Space. Nonprofits and government organizations often host virtual workshops on life skills. You're actually here right now on one, right? They have life skills, job readiness, personal development, and so much more. Virtual mentoring programs like Big Brothers or Big Sisters offer remote mentorship for youth under 18 and allowing them to connect to role models, even if there are none locally at the moment. So I know that virtual often comes up when it comes to rural areas, but there are assistances that are more in depth than what may come up to the naked eye, right? Or when you first initially are searching. You want to introduce the virtual options to youth effectively, right? So you want to normalize it. Since 2020, we've definitely had virtual resources be more normalized in our society. Let the youth know that using virtual resources is just as valid and effective as in-person services. And although it's different and it does have different benefits and challenges, it could still be beneficial. Many youth are already tech savvy, right? And are comfortable with digital platforms. So framing it positively can make it feel more approachable. Highlight some success stories or testimonials from other youth who have successfully used virtual resources. And try to think outside the box. Cross-networking strengthens your resource pool. Speaking with nonprofits in the area or statewide may lead to a resource that you wouldn't have been connected to otherwise. Smaller community gatherings are also valid places for resource gatherings, such as farmers markets, library events, community centers, or school and college gatherings. We often overlook those things because they seem very mundane, but they often have a lot of community-based resources that are more local and centralized. So it could be impactful to, know about those things and share them. So here we are talking about cross-networking and resource gathering. Why don't we do a share out of, and of course it's last minute, so don't feel on the spot, but if there is a resource that you know of that you feel is something that is beneficial to the youth that you serve or to your work as a YPA, feel free to share it out in the chat and give all of us a little bit more access to those resources. Right now, we're a resource in ourselves because we're all here together and we all are learning together. We're all sharing information, and what better place to be able to extend that resource but here, right? So, and I will also be capturing those and it can be sent out as well. So some helpful tips. You want to create a resource calendar. This is something that I have done and was very popular actually. If you're in your agency or wherever you're at, building a calendar with relevant monthly resources and events like health fairs, back to school drives, employment workshops, literally anything, especially if you are in a rural area and you may not have as many in-person events happening. This calendar could definitely be beneficial to someone who is looking to get access to resources. They can know, hey, around this time, or at least I know this agency is providing that, and it could be a great help to the community. Always offer follow through, right? You always want to make sure that you're following through with the things that you are sharing with your youth. If your youth got got if your youth got referred somewhere, check in with them, right? Make sure that it's going well, make sure that they were able to get in touch with someone. Oftentimes it may just be, oh, you sent the youth to somewhere. You just want to make sure that you're following through on your end as a YPA to make sure that it was helpful and that they actually got the help that they needed. You don't want to just leave them out there, right? And it's okay not to succeed every time. Sometimes you won't always have a, a response, or somebody may not be as willing to collaborate, right? And that's okay. As a YPA, you will have some ups, you will have some downs, but all of these interactions contribute to you gaining your resource to gaining your resource pool and collaborating, and as well as building your professional development. You know, over the years, you will have encountered a lot of different discussions with a lot of different agencies, and you may be more equipped later on to be able to navigate situations where you're coming up with barriers. So it's okay to not succeed, you know, embrace those times and see it as learning, points of learning, and just keep trying. So thank you all. That is what I have. Oh, actually, I want to recap. So we talked about building connections and networks. There's different ways to build connections. We're talking about individually, being confident, making sure that you're clear about what your platform is, what you're asking, and maintaining your networks, which means to stay in contact with them, maybe get a point person, and to be clear about what it is that you do and how can others help you, or at least giving a starting point about how they can help you. Resource matching and terminology when matching for resources, thinking outside of the box, thinking about community gatherings, thinking about virtual options, thinking about how to actually connect to resources that you may not be familiar with, and thinking about it broadly and then bringing it back down where you're able to search them on government sites, nonprofits, community organizations, who knows, right? And the importance of staying organized and up to date. You will, if you are an active collaborator, right, you will end up having a lot of information about a lot of different things. So you want to make sure that you have it at least a little bit organized. I gave the suggestion of a calendar. You don't have to go with that, but at least having that information somewhere where you can access it easily and you have the requirements up to date, age requirements or whatever other eligibility requirements that may have come up, so that when you are checking in with those agencies, you're able to update them over time. Oh, wow. We made it, right? You all did so great today. Do you have any questions about any of the things that I've said?
I have no questions. I just have a comment. I think that, like, learning how to structure an email, that activity, but your guidance on that, like the guidance was really important because that's also something that I struggled with as like a YPA when I first started out. And it's also something that sometimes you continue to struggle with because in emails, sometimes you can't tell tone, because it breaks down that communication. And I think that you going over those things was a really valuable skill in how to create tone so it's not misinterpreted.
Yes, thank you so much for that. I definitely resonate with what you said about being a YPA and trying to figure out how the tone is going. Yeah, I hope that all of these things are something that was something valuable or something you could take away, and that it's something that you could look back on and hopefully be able to be implemented in real life in real time, So thank you. Thank you so much for that comment, Megan, and your compliment as well. I appreciate it. Anything else? If not, I'll pass it back to Yasmin.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Zaquana, for the great presentation. And thank you everyone for your time, attention, and participation. As a reminder, today's recording and slides will be available on the CTAC website within the next 2 to 3 business days. Our coordinator will be sending a link in the chat box, so you remember to complete the brief feedback survey, which you will also receive in an email in case you're unable to complete it right now. Just a reminder for upcoming CTAC events, we have strengthening ties, supporting caregivers in developing their natural supports. And this is more geared toward FPAs. So if you have any FPAs on your team, you can refer to them to this, which is taking place on December 16th from 12 p.m. to 1:30 via Zoom. On behalf of FTNYS, CTAC, and Zaquana, thank you all so much for joining us today and have a great rest of your day and happy holidays.